with Jack Lenox, the expert in sustainable web design, creator of Susty, that tiny WordPress thing. How big is it?
Well, it depends how you configure it, but 6 kilobytes is what kind of I got the homepage to. So, because obviously you could still, the theme is small, but you could put like a huge image.
Yeah, okay.
Blow that out the water. So, but yeah, 6 kilobytes ish.
How long did it take?
About a day.
Whoa!
It took a bit longer. It's funny because I sort of talked to people about it as being the thing I did the least, the thing that took the least effort to get the most amount of applause. because I was mostly just removing things, so it was I just wanted to get everything out of a theme except the things you absolutely need. So I started with underscores, and then I just kind of underscores as a starter theme for people that aren't familiar with it. Produced by the theme team at Automatic, and it's already like a bare bones theme. But there's lots of things in there. There's lots of assumptions made in underscores about just the kind of fitting with the traditional way that we do theming on WordPress. So like having a sidebar and having widget areas and all this kind of stuff. And so I took all of those things out. I also cut down some of the markup because I was getting into like real fine tuning. So some of the divs and stuff that don't really need to be there, and other elements. And not that it's, I mean, it's very lean underscores, but I was like cutting, and then I cut like even the CSS they had back, and just have like the bare minimum I think I could do. And but yeah, so it took a bit of time, but it wasn't. It probably took us more than a day, but it didn't take very long, and it was great.
Yeah, excellent. How did you get started in WordPress?
I got to university, and having been like just having this hobby of building websites, I got involved in setting up a student newspaper, and then we did a website. And I had these I just thought there must be a better way than these cruddy CMSs that I'm making. And then I came upon, and I looked at a few, and I think some of them were on, at that point like Ruby was becoming a thing, so there were all these like sort of different approaches, but I knew PHP and MySQL, so I was like, that's kind of what I want to do, even though some people criticize that. And yeah, so WordPress kind of came onto my radar, and then I started playing around with it, and just immediately was, oh my god, this cuts out so much of the work I'm doing. Like, just having a CMS that's working. But for me, like very early on, I've always been a bit of an outsider with it because I've always liked the sort of unorthodox uses of WordPress. So to me, WordPress has always just been the CMS. Like I wasn't a blogger, and I wasn't building like my own theme for my blog. I was like, I need to build a newspaper website, so like let's build a newspaper website and let's use WordPress. And yeah, I think it was around when I first started using it. It didn't have custom post types. It was pre like 3.0. So it was pretty old, so I remember doing lots of weird apps for doing like galleries and all the kind of old stuff that people used to do. And but yeah, so that was it really. And then it just kind of evolved, and I ended up coming out of university in the middle of a recession. So I was trying to become a journalist, and like it wasn't an easy road. But I built up all these web skills. So I worked at a website, a consumer finance website, where I was a journalist, and but I quickly kind of got onto working on their website because I was like, your website's terrible. And they wanted to shift it onto WordPress, so I was like, I've just been learning WordPress. So, and then, yeah, that kind of really led to just like more and more of that kind of work. So it's a very lengthy story of how I got into WordPress, but yeah, that's how we got there.
Who are you working with?
Oh, so I work for Automatic, sorry, yeah. So in 2013, I joined Automatic, having done like a few different agency jobs and stuff. And then in 2016, I moved on to the WIP team, which is kind of within Automatic, but it's kind of separate. Yeah, so now I work on like big newspaper websites.
Oh, okay, like 538.
Yeah, we've got things like 538. We've got The Sun in the UK, which is like a big newspaper. Not an entirely apolitical newspaper, but big. Yeah. And then we've got all sorts of other clients. We've got like Metro, which is one of the free papers in the UK. In the US, there's like also got like all of CBS is on there, and like all of their local sites, and yeah, there's just Facebook. Almost every site that isn't Facebook.com is on WordPress VIP, so all of their like press sites and their
sites. Their newsroom is WordPress.
Their newsroom's on WordPress, yeah.
A lot of big companies use WordPress for their blogs and newsrooms and stuff like that.
Yeah, and it's weird because we host like a lot of just the blogs. So we host like the Spotify blog. We host, there's a whole bunch of these kind of Airbnb as well, for example. So like blog.airbnb.com is on VIP and it's on WordPress. Yeah, so it's cool. Yeah.
In WordPress, the WordPress space, who's doing good sustainable work?
I think the sort of out and out leader, as far as I can tell, and I'm happy to be corrected, but Whole Grain Digital are are great, and I know Tom quite well, and we chat quite a bit. So I mean, it's very cool that, because not many people are doing stuff about this just generally in the industry. So to have a company as influential as Hobby Digital in that sphere, in the WordPress space, I think is pretty awesome. So yeah, they've obviously built this website, carbon.com, which is this tool that kind of tells you what your carbon footprint of your website is. They're doing a whole lot of work as a company, so they're disclosing all of their carbon footprint data based on like everything down to like the employees commuting into work, and like if they were coming to a conference like this, they would be measuring everything. They'd be encouraging people to go by train, like lots of cool stuff. So they're definitely the out and out leader. There are kind of some peripheral companies as well that probably not everyone will know, but like Mighty Bytes, which is a company run by a guy called Tim Frick. Tim wrote the book Designing for Sustainability for O'Reilly, and so Mighty Bytes actually do a load of WordPress work, but they're kind of one of those agencies that you won't see as much of work out. So they're not as much in the community, but they do, because they also do Drupal. You know, they're like a they're not just a WordPress agency, but but so you've got companies like that as well that are doing a lot. But I think it's a very nascent thing, I think, in the community itself. So yeah, exactly. So it's in terms of like individuals, it's someone like Justin Tablock, who I shouted out to in the talk. I don't think he's making themes of sustainability, but he happens to be doing that by accident.
Yeah.
So you can so like high five. Maybe he is. I mean, I haven't chatted with him about it.
I'm sure he'll be happy to say, oh no, I just had it. That's how good I am. Small businesses, people that are making their own sites. What could they do to make their sites more sustainable?
Yeah, so I mean, I think there's lots of, if you're a small business, there's lots of little things you can be doing. So obviously one of those things is trying to choose a performance theme. That's kind of one thing you can be looking at. So there's actually a lot out there. Like it's a little bit hard to work out which ones are, and I'd love to include some sort of grading in the theme repository. It's something. There's lots of little things you can do, even if you're just like if you're a journalist or you're writing the copy for a business website. There's loads of little things like a YouTube embed. If you're going to actually embed a YouTube video, that will take about 1 megabyte of download just to show the embed before you even click play or anything. And that's the kind of thing that, both from a performance standpoint and a sustainability standpoint, you can say, well, if everyone's going to click this, like if it's an embed on a page that's like a virtual tour of our hotels, then you probably want to embed it. Like that makes sense. But like a lot of the time people do that, it's just kind of craft that gets in the way. If most people aren't clicking it, then it just needs to be embedded. You could just have a link to the video, or you could have like a still kind of screenshot, just an image, and that would like massively reduce that kind of thing. So there's lots of little things you can do. The principles we talk about anyway, like making a site as accessible as possible, so people aren't wasting time roaming around on it. And in some ways, I think some people see this as being a bit like, well, that's just kind of what we're doing anyway. And it's true, like we are doing these things anyway. But I think, for me, certainly, it gave me a whole new way of thinking about it, to be like, wow, there's a sustainability impact. Like, it's not just performance, it's not just usability, it's also like energy usage, which is cool. So yeah, and then there's some plugins. There's like, if you don't have systems access, if you're not using a plugin like WP Supercache, you should be, or like something like that, because what's great about WP Supercache is you don't need to configure. You're not configuring Nginx or Apache. Like, it will just generate HTML static pages of all the pages on your website, and serve those instead of the dynamic ones. Which is great. Which is like so yeah. So there's a few things if you're just kind of a web administrator, you can just add WP Supercache, activate it. Like, it's a really simple plugin. Like, it's great.
Yeah. So where do you draw the line between making a profit with a good feature, and saying, all right, well, let's be sustainable instead?
But obviously, from my perspective, I would say that Google should do whatever they can to make the platform as sustainable as possible for free, and then they should be doing anything else they want on top of that. So if the premium app's like, if it's hinging around, we stop playback a video, it's like, it's a weird...
It's a bigger problem.
Exactly. So it's difficult. I'd love to know. I don't know anyone on the YouTube team or anything, but I'd love to know a bit more about how they came to that decision.
Yeah, it's weird because there are options where you can get streaming music without video.
Yes.
For free. Like Spotify for free is really good.
Exactly.
So I understand it's a requested feature, but I don't think it's a make or break.
No, you wouldn't think that that's the only reason people are going for premium. So, so I'd like to see them take it out. And I mean, for the study as well, that they were just looking at, the guys at Bristol were just looking at one they're like, what's one design change that you can make? And that was one they kind of hit upon. But I think there's hundreds of changes they could be making, and they do. Like, these companies are obviously very performance minded. But it's interesting. It's another interesting part of that whole sustainability debate, where I'm not just telling people to like make their websites really basic and have really clean text, but it's like thinking about the actual design of the site and like how people are going to use it, and is it as efficient as possible in that regard? Which is then that comes to like designers, and it comes to user experience, like user research, and all sorts of other like interesting angles that I would say.
But you said they're doing a lot anyway,
Yeah, so you have to kind of take your hat off in all different ways. So obviously Google, they're running the Lighthouse project, which is a performance auditing tool that's built into Chrome, and you can run it standalone, open source. It's being led by Paul Irish, is that one of their celebrity web developers? So if such a thing can exist. But yeah, so they're doing like that. That's really good. They severely audit all of their own stuff. The performance of Google, just their homepage over the years, and the articles they've written about how they've optimized it. It's obviously very simple in itself, but they've made that faster and faster and faster. They also rank part of the weighting of your search engine ranking is the speed of your site, so the more crafty and heavy your site is. So all of these things are encouraging more performance sites, which in turn are more sustainable. And then as a big company, they're doing so. The cloud platform is through offsets and other things effectively 100% renewable, which is pretty huge. Like they're way ahead of Amazon in that regard. So the cloud platform is great. I mentioned in the talk that something I read, which I was just like, that's incredible. Alphabet is the biggest corporate buyer of renewable energy in the world. Which is just So they're doing a lot, and you kind of have to take your hands off. And obviously, as someone who's environmentally minded, you want to do more. They can always be doing more, and a lot of their energy setup is through offsetting. So there's only so far that's going to work, because what they're doing is where they're burning coal somewhere in the US, they're buying renewable energy in Canada and feeding that back into their grid or something on their behalf. But if you're ramping up your energy at the speed the internet is, that's going to run. We're going to run out of options now. They need to be building like solar farms, and they need to be building wind turbines themselves, or funding them at least to power their data centers. So they need to be truly green. Which, it's a big challenge.
But England was running without coal for how long? For 2 weeks?
It's happened, 2 weeks. So I'm just on wind. And there's an amazing website for anyone in or outside the UK. If you go to gridwatch.co.uk, you can see the live data of how the grid is currently running. So kind of through the night, you'll see like CCGT, the gas turbines, they go right up. But yeah, when it's nice and windy, it can run pretty much on clean energy. And I think, is it the Dutch train network now is pretty much totally running on renewables? So which is pretty cool. I think mostly wind. Yeah. So they've kind of segmented it for their trains. So it's lots of cool stuff. And Germany's doing a heck of a lot. I mean, Germany does still burn quite a lot of coal because they've got loads of the cheap brown coal. The type that's really dirty, really cheap.
I'm Australian. I don't like to talk to them. Coal's not so bad.
You might have seen, I think you saw the bits of Australia on the other.
I always look, whenever I see a map like that, I look at Australia, it's always like black.
Yeah, it's.
I'm English.
My understanding is that Australia is like a tale of two countries, because you have some amazing stuff going on in the renewable front. Like there's like whole sort of towns and cities and districts that are like completely running on solar, and there's some like really amazing stuff happening, and then it's kind of there's like both ends of the spectrum like going at the same time. So it's I don't know what to say about it. No, I'm not. I mean, in my like the UK, we could do a hell of a lot better. You see, like France is totally green. Partly because they use this nuclear, but then like the Scandinavia is green on renewables, and so we could be. The UK is doing well, but it could be doing a heck of a lot better, and it needs to be.
I still think proud.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So what steps should a developer take to make sure?
It's pretty wide ranging. There's if you're starting, I suppose there's different angles. If you're starting a new site, like a new project, there's just a whole ton of things you can be doing. So first thing, like getting as up to date as you can with the latest like performance techniques and the latest thinking on that, because there's always things moving around. So there's a new, for example, if you're in a position where you configure servers, there's a new compression mechanism called properly, which Google has produced in open source, and it's even better than gzip. So there's things like this where it's like you can be making those changes very early on. Then like how you build your product, the quote I have from Hayden Pickering that I really like is like the most performant, maintainable component that you build for a website is the one you don't build. And so really taking that sort of minimalist approach, and again, I'm not saying like take all your graphics away and like make it really nice. There's some really nice websites out there, really pleasant to use, that are really lightweight. So yeah, just thinking about every single thing you're doing, thinking about all the way down to your divs, and then like what CSS preprocessors you're using, and what kind of CSS that's producing, monitoring all those kind of different bits of code that you're producing, setting performance budgets, so setting yourself a target on how big your web page is going to be. I'd suggest something like half a megabyte at tops, but you can do, I mentioned Thought Company, the article I showed was like 200 kilobytes, and that's a fully designed, that's a proper publishing house, you know, and they're doing that kind of thing. So, and the other thing, if you're in a position to do this, is to be powering your stuff with renewable energy, because that really helps. So we've got quite a few hosts in the UK, and it's like there's really good hosting. I mean, well, you can use like Google Cloud Platform. You can actually, like the AWS Frankfurt data center is clean. So the best place to kind of find the information on that, and just some really good info generally, is the Sustainable Servers petition that I mentioned. They have a white paper linked from that petition, and it's just a really interesting read. It's only about like 5-6 pages. It's really interesting just to read through and see what the technologists in the sphere have really been doing. They go through ranking all the big hosting companies. And
when you talk to clients, the client's like, I want that carousel. I want that carousel in there. You know, where are the share buttons?
Yeah.
How do you talk about that?
I think, obviously, if you have it, the best thing you can use is data. And this kind of came up in the talk, and I should have prepared myself better, but I've read so many of these stories, and I'm sure if you watch the performance talks, it's proven across the board that the bigger and heavier your website is and the slower it works, the more you lose people. Like, the more you lose customers, the more you lose readers, the more you lose, you've dropped down the Google rankings, because that's part of their measure. So there's just so many reasons not to do it. And I think, first up, that's what I would try to use. And certainly I think there's been a shift, like we're on the VIP team, or we have these big enterprise clients, there's an increasing demand for, we've never really done like front-end code review. We do code review for all of the security and everything else, but clients are increasingly saying like, we want our site to perform better, because we sell speed, like speed is what we're selling, but we can't stop you adding like 200 images to a page and it being slow. And we serve them as quick as possible. Yeah. But that doesn't matter. Or if you have some massive blocking JavaScript or something, that's going to happen, and you're going to come up bad on that web page test or whatever. So clients are increasingly actually wanting it as well. And I think probably the third thing that I think you can do there, and I think it's something that I just would love to see more of, and it took me quite a long time to come around to this, but it's just doing user research. And the more you can do that with a client, and if you can just take, because user research sounds really expensive. You think, we've got to get we've got to book a room now, we've got to pay people to come in, test the website, and answer the questions. It's like, or you can literally just go and sit in the cafe and go up to someone and say, excuse me, do you mind if I want to test my website? And most people do, because I'll buy you a coffee. Can we just sit? And you can spend an hour. And in the grand scheme of things, for even a freelancer agency, it's not a huge amount of time. But if you can sit and demonstrate to a client that the user doesn't like a carousel or something, so you compare the two and you say, because that's almost definitely going to be the case, because all of the research would suggest that users do not like carousels, they don't interact with them, most people don't, but 98% of them don't click them, they just it doesn't matter. So that, I think, is where you end up with your hardest evidence. You're like, look, all these people don't like carousels.
Yeah. So do you think sustainability will be the next sort of big movement?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think because sustainability does kind of encompass all of the best practices, really. There's nothing people are telling you in an accessibility talk or a performance talk that goes against also making your website more sustainable. So I don't know if it will capture the imagination in quite the same way as other paradigm shifts have. I think it definitely could. I mean, we are definitely seeing a lot more, you're seeing companies competing now in terms of how sustainable they are. Even banks and stuff, everyone's getting on about it. It's what everyone wants to be saying they're doing. So I like to think it will, for the right reasons. What I don't want is greenwashed. That'd be really bad if it becomes this kind of thing that's not really backed up. And obviously, making your website more sustainable is one thing, but what I also want to try and drive is like for companies to be more like more green digital and to disclose their footprint and to think, to be thinking about, and like WordCamp Europe, I'd love to see a carbon footprint analysis of this whole conference, and not just to kind of shame the event, because I'm sure it's probably quite big, but the point as well, once you start measuring stuff, you can start changing stuff. So it's so if WordCamp Europe does a carbon footprint analysis, well, it's pretty too late now, but if they did it this year, they could work out, we produced X hundred tons of CO2, probably 1,000 actually. But then they could think about like, right, next year, what do we change to make that better? The impact of measuring and of creating an actual number that you can then start to shift. I'd love to see that happening more broadly, like within web design and within the web industry. So all agencies are thinking about it like more green, for example. It's getting a lot of free publicity, but that's great. And that's the thing, it just gets in the collective psyche, to have people writing about it, talking about it. And it's a thing that I don't know if you the new David Attenborough documentary on Netflix that's like really impactful. But the thing that like one of the biggest things they talk about you being able to do, that like just talks about the people like